नाव के का
Phumani.
याले चासमान करे शुरू करला इसे रोपा
अब छोट बेटा के का याद रही बाबू
जति बेड़ा रहती ओहे के का कौन कौन काम
सिखाने अब इतना बढ़ा लिखना रोपा रोपली
अरे कते बेरा घुरत रहा
उतरा में जात रही
कते बेरा घुरत रहा रोपा रोपे जाए काले घर घुरत रख लिए कते
हमें 4 बजे
4 बजे अरे उखन डांडा मन बात होत रहे कि नहीं डांडा मन
छुआ बेरा तनी बैठ रहे ले पाछे पाछे बात लाख वो है डांडा बाथा में तो रोपा है आई जले बात है.
For her whole working life, Phumani grew rice. Now, at the age of 78, her body is crippled, bent double, so she's now the same height she was when she started working in the fields. It's estimated that there are around 1 billion rice growers across the world, and more than half of them are women. Typically, a woman's role is to uproot seedlings, transport them to the paddy fields, transplant them, weed the field, and, with their menfolk, harvest the crop. Sabarmati is an Indian researcher looking into the impacts of this work on women's bodies and on their general well-being.
A woman, on average, spends around 150 hours for transplantation, for another 150 hours for weeding, another 150 hours for removal of seedlings and transporting to the main field. So, altogether comes around 450 to 500 hours per 1 acre. So, 1000 to 1500 hours per 1 hectare. So, it's a huge time.
Typically, rice is transplanted when seedlings are 30 to 45 days old. Sabarmati has calculated that each bundle transported weighs an average of 1.5 kilograms. The seedlings are transplanted in tight clumps. This work is done, bent over, in flooded fields and under monsoon rains. This leads to a large number of physical problems, from disease to malnourishment and undernourishment to, eventually, musculoskeletal disorders.
I found that it's a time when most people are diseased, like malaria, typhoid, all sorts of vector-borne diseases are there at that time, and because of the wet environment they get severe infections like candidiasis, tinea. So they are diseased, cold, fever, coughing, those kind of, but they continue to work. And at that time of the year, like the beginning of the monsoon, the vegetable rate is very high in the market. They can't afford to buy vegetables, and whatever little they buy from the market, it's a social system. They give the majority of that to the men folks, to the children, and whatever is left out or not, they eat that.
During the rice growing season across South and Southeast Asia, women can be seen working vast swathes of land. Dokeo Simon Kun lives in Khamwan province, Laos, and reports the same kind of problems.
เพราะว่าต้องก้มมันลกก้านะอันจิบแอวเนาะส่วนหลายนะแล้วกล่าวว่าขออนุญาตนำเด้ออันนี้นะอันตีนที่ว่าถือน้ำกัดหลายเนาะคือตีนในอย่างก็หัวเล็บมันเสียนะตัวนั้นเนาะจะถือว่าเพราะว่าเฮากะยาวนานกับอันการที่ว่าเฮาเฮ็ดหนึ่งมาต้องไปเสียเวลาอยู่บนก้าหันแล้วก็ดำตัวนั้นเนาะเจ็บแอวส่วนหลายเจ็บหลังเจ็บแอวเลย
Dokeo discusses the subject with fellow rice growers, who also speak of severe physical problems. When she asks her fellow farmers to illustrate the places where they feel most pain, there's a consensus of opinion. And what is true in Laos is also true in India.
ଆମେ ରୋଇସୁଁ ଫଲା ରୋଇବାରେ ଟିକେ କଷ୍ଟ ହେସି ସେଟା ଟିକେ ପାଖେ ପାଖେ ଜଗା ହେସି
Sabarmati developed this visual way of communicating with farmers about their experience of physical pain brought about by their work. When carrying out her research, Sabarmati was struck by the fact that although these occupational health problems are common, the women rice farmers she spoke with had never discussed them with researchers before.
So they were quite excited about it, and it was strange. They say that no one ever asked us about these questions.
Sabarmati's work involves comparing the impacts of traditional rice growing against the impacts of rice produced under the system of rice intensification, or SRI, an innovative, climate-smart method of rice growing in which the key input is knowledge and which can result in much lower costs and higher yields.
The women were very articulate about their experiences while they were explaining the impact of SRI. They were really not talking too much about yield and cost and those things.
Under SRI, young seedlings are planted in wide spaces. This means that women have to carry and plant up to 90% fewer seedlings. Furthermore, those seedlings are younger and so weigh less. This also means the women spend less time in the fields. Also, where possible, water is drained from the fields to aerate the plants, so water disease is reduced. The wide spacing allows for the use of a mechanical weeder. Felicita Topno is a rice farmer from Orissa, India.
अधिक जमी रे चाष करि पारुछु आ से हिसाब रे हमर अमलटा भी बेसी आसु छे आ हमर मेहनतटा बहुत माने सहज उपाय रे आमे ठिया है कि आमे कन्याडर चलै कि आमे जेमती जमी के उर्वर करी कि.
In Laos, on the day that women rice farmers first tried transplanting according to SRI, Dokeo asked the group for their immediate thoughts.
ครบเบิดเลยแม่นบ่บัดนี้เวลาบัดนี้มื้อนี้เนาะหันเฮาเฮ็ดนาแบบนี้หันเฮาก็มันง่ายบ่หรือมันยากล่ะมันก็ง่ายแหละคือมื้อนี้สิง่ายแม่นบ่
SRI is a low-cost, high-yielding way of growing rice, but it is also a way to greatly reduce and even entirely eliminate the severe physical impact of rice growing on the people who practice it. People whose problems are generally invisible until it is too late, and like Phumani, they've been bent back to the height of the small child that they once were when their lives as rice farmers began.